if you look carefully, there is actually a soundbar. This is the soundbar that is below the TV. It is Samsung's ultra slim soundbar, and they call it the HWS800B. 800 for the black model and 801 for the white model. Now, this soundbar is so thin, but it's able to throw out an insane amount of sound and bass because of a couple of things. This wireless subwoofer here. Now, this wireless subwoofer has an active 6.5-inch driver here, and at the rear of it is actually a passive radiator. So it is kind of like a sealed design, except that it uses a passive radiator, and the sound that is coming out from this combination is pretty amazing. Now, what is the most important is actually the driver configuration. Now, there are actually 9 drivers in this soundbar alone. There are 2 upward firing drivers for Atmos effect, and the front, left, right, and the center driver has a total of 7 drivers. 2 on each side, 1 bass, 1 tweeter, and then there are 2 bass drivers in the middle and a tweeter in the middle. So that's a total of 9 drivers. And you couple that with the active driver here, it is a 10 driver system. And all this is coming in at, well, I bought it at 340 Singapore dollars. Now, in terms of value, it is unbeatable. I was thinking of getting back the Sonos Ray because that uses an optical output, and this frame TV, actually using the One Connect box, it has an optical output, which I thought that would be the solution. But I checked around, and the pricing for the Ray in Singapore, list price is 529. If you buy from Takshan Acoustic now, it's at 399. It is still more expensive than what I'm paying for this subwoofer with the ultra slim soundbar combination. So in terms of value, in terms of pricing, you're not going to be able to beat this combination. Now, of course, the sound expectation, I tempered it quite a little bit because I didn't think that a $340 that I'm going to be spending on a soundbar is going to do any good, but boy, was I really surprised by it. Now, let me give you the upfront summary. I think if you're trying to spend some amount of money on a soundbar to improve the sound that is coming out from your TV, this $340 is probably quite well spent. Now, note that Samsung is selling this at $799 list price, and they're running a promotion which sells it for 709 Singapore dollars. But if you look around on Carousel, and if you look around, because some of the TV buyers that are getting this combination for free, and you might be able to scalp it off them, I got mine at $340, which is pretty much a no-brainer. I want to get through to the whole technical aspect of things, so I break it down in a couple of things. What is the soundbar about? Now, I'll go through the physical aspect. Now, this soundbar, like I mentioned, is a true 3.1.2 system, right? 3 for the left, center, and the right channel. 0.1 is from this subwoofer here, and the 0.2 is for the 2 upward firing driver. And the whole thing is so slim. The soundbar itself comes in at 1.4 kg, and the subwoofer, this tiny subwoofer here, I think is a 10 by 10 square inch footage. It comes in at 6.4 kilos. Now, the weight may not matter much, but if you're trying to warm out a 1.4 kg soundbar, it is not going to be difficult. And given the profile, it is less than 40 millimeters in height, 38 to be precise, and depth is 40 millimeter. The length is 116 centimeters, which complements a 55-inch TV pretty well. The power is rated for 130 watts, but it comes with a power supply. It's a DC power supply that goes up to, I think, 65 watts or so. So that's what you can take from it, right? It won't go up to 130 watts. The subwoofer itself is rated for 200 watts, the amplifier itself. So this is the remote that comes with the Samsung soundbar. There are a couple of basic functions you can, but if you are using a Samsung TV or any other TV, actually you don't quite use this remote. You can do some of the settings using the Samsung TV itself. But otherwise, if you're going to use this remote to control the soundbar, then you probably got to jump through hoops, or you probably got to memorize the manual, or have to refer to the electronic manual that Samsung provides, because it is not that easy, because there are no screens here, just LED lighting, and you got to listen out to the voice prompt. Now, usability-wise, it's not great, but what do you expect? You're paying 300 plus, maybe even at full price, $700 for the soundbar. Now, in terms of connectivity, I told you I was looking for optical, but this soundbar has no optical input. So all the inputs that are going through it, there's only one wire input, which is an eARC port, meaning to say you connect it to your TV, which has a corresponding eARC port. It will be able to communicate and send the sound to the soundbar. The other two connectivity methods, they are actually wireless. One of them is Bluetooth and the other is Wi-Fi. Now, I'm going to touch on the Wi-Fi just a little bit, but that is actually a key selling point, but more on that later. Bluetooth is at 5.2. You can actually cast the sound from the TV to the soundbar. So it doesn't even have to be a Samsung TV. It can be any TV as long as it's capable of sound output through Bluetooth. You can actually cast the sound wirelessly to the soundbar. So you're only left with a power cable powering the soundbar. But Bluetooth is only 2-channel, so you won't be able to get a full Atmos or surround sound effect from your content if you're connecting via Bluetooth in that manner. So the usual of Spotify Connect, Apple AirPlay, AirPlay 2 from Apple, it is also available. Now on to the other features, you do actually get Google Assistant as well. And there's some functions like SpaceFit Sound Pro, which is like a room correction, which I didn't actually quite manage to get it work. If you know how to make this work, please do leave a comment in the comment section down below and teach me how to. It wasn't available in a lot of the sound modes. When I tried to go through the manual, none of them I managed to actually activate the SpaceFit Sound Pro. There's also adaptive sound, but adaptive sound basically just screens the content for what you're watching. If you're watching news, it will prioritize vocals. If you're watching movies, it will prioritize surround sound or sound effects. I don't actually leave that. I leave that off and I choose the sound that I want to listen to, right? And there is active voice amplifier. So it actually relies on the mic to pick up the surrounding sound. If there's a vacuum cleaner running in the background, it will actually prioritize the sound to actually push it up so that you can hear the vocals and the dialogue better when you're watching TV. Now, I've gotten the kind of mundane aspect of the soundbar out of the way. I just have to go through a few killer features. Now, I've listed out a couple of things, but one of the killer features that I mentioned earlier is about the price, right? Because you are looking at 340 Singapore dollars for a subwoofer as well as a soundbar that works with almost any TV and especially well with a Samsung TV. I actually think that that is a damn good deal. Now, think about it, right? For the Sonos Ray, which is the cheapest soundbar that you're going to be able to get from Sonos, it doesn't even have Bluetooth, it has no HDMI connectivity, and it's selling for slightly more than $340. So in terms of value, this is pretty unbeatable. Now, bear in mind that if you're going to have to buy a Sonos Ray, you may want a subwoofer as well. And this price, $340, I get the subwoofer as well. For the Sub Mini, you're going to pay $869. So it's going to push your price all the way past $1,000 if you're going to go the Sonos route. Now, granted, the subwoofer, it doesn't sound as clean as a Sub Mini. The Sub Mini is still a super capable sub, right? And I would actually recommend it wholeheartedly if you've got the funds for it. But for $340, this is the special power of this Samsung S800 soundbar. Now, the other feature, which I kind of like put it under killer feature, but it is not quite, right? Which is Q Symphony. So what Q Symphony does is that it pairs the sound with a compatible Samsung TV. And this Samsung TV here will have its own speakers, right? I bought a 55-inch version because of a few considerations. I won't go into that today because we are not talking about TV, but one of the differences from the 55-inch to below those of 55-inch, maybe the 50 or the 43, is that it has 2+2 speaker configuration. It has 2 speakers firing forward and it has 2 more bassier drivers firing downwards. Now, you can actually, using Q Symphony, pair the 2 together and all the speakers, the 9 on the soundbar itself plus the 1 from the subwoofer as well as the 2+2 from the TV, it will all pair together and work together and throw out sound. So you get a lot more volume, right? But Q Symphony, while it does make the sound a little bit more immersive because you do actually have speakers that are positioned higher up than the soundbar itself, it actually makes the sound a little bit more immersive. And I would say you might want to turn it on. It does make the mid-range a little bit more pronounced. I wouldn't say that it is a great thing, neither is it a bad thing. It just raises the volume quite a little bit and you do get a bit more immersion when you turn on Q Symphony. Now, it only works with the Samsung TVs launched from 2023 3 onwards, right? This is Q Symphony 3.0. It is a feature that if you have it, turn it on, if you're using another panel, another TV, you probably won't miss it too much. It is actually smoother sounding without Q Symphony than with Q Symphony. But if you need volume, then that is one way to go. And speaking about volume, this soundbar, it goes up to 100, right? So on the scale of 100, it goes from 0 to 100. And at 15 to 20, it is plenty loud. It is so loud, it is unbelievably loud. And if you try at my regular setting of 60 on the Sonos Arc Ultra, it will get too loud, right? Now, volume-wise, it doesn't sound as composed when it goes loud. So I would say that comfortably, you'll be able to listen to about maybe 30, 35 on the volume scale on this Samsung soundbar. And anything beyond that is probably not going to sound as composed. It sounds a little bit crackly. It doesn't sound so well composed. It doesn't maintain the control over the sound as well if you're going through high volume. But this soundbar is really capable of going really, really loud. The fourth killer feature, that will be Atmos, right? Now for this price, right, when you get the Sonos Ray, it is not an Atmos soundbar. But when you get the Samsung S800 soundbar, it is actually Atmos capable. It actually has 2 upward firing drivers to send the sound to the ceiling to bounce back to you. Now, does it work very well? Actually, not quite. I didn't get the heights effect as much as I thought I would because of the upward firing driver. Now, in that sense, the Arc Ultra and the Era 300 actually shows a much more convincing soundstage than the Samsung soundbar here. But then again, consider the price, right? The Arc Ultra with the subwoofer, with the Era 300 is going to cost you $4,000 over, close to $5,000. We are looking at $340. So that's why that's the first killer feature that I mentioned, right? Now, there's one last killer feature that I have to mention. And let me show you a party trick. Let's go to, say, Netflix. I'm just going to play something so that you can hear, not necessarily a sound test. Okay, so this is Dolby Atmos, right? Now he's going to start playing. This is on TV speaker. I'm going to switch this to the soundbar. So now this is going through HDMI eARC to the S800 soundbar. Instantly, the sound is going to sound a lot better, right? But there's another trick that I can pull up my sleeve. Now, check this out.
You have any warrants? No.
Okay, sound output, it says soundbar HDMI eARC. There is another one here that says soundbar Wi-Fi. Check this out, okay? There are 2 connections at the back of the soundbar. One is for power, obviously, and the other is actually HDMI. It uses a mini HDMI port, or maybe it's micro, I don't know. That's the one that Samsung provides, but I'm gonna pull it out so you get no sound, right? It's coming through a TV speaker, but I can select Ultra Slim Soundbar Wi-Fi. See, I only have one power cable running in the soundbar. The sound is actually coming from the TV wirelessly over Wi-Fi into the soundbar itself. This is wireless Atmos, okay? And you can actually set it to Q Symphony, and it will actually use the same connection and fire off the speakers on the TV as well as the soundbar through Wi-Fi. Okay, so that's the TV and the Ultra Slim soundbar firing off at the same time, and the connection is actually via Wi-Fi. So how cool is that? So something for Sonos to actually take note of is the possibility for maybe, I don't know, Sonos, the Pinewood TV streamer box, if it's able to cast the sound wirelessly to speakers to Sonos soundbars, then that will be something that will replicate the function. No more wires going into your soundbar. It's probably something that manufacturers need to think about to make the TVs cross-compatible across brands to be able to cast the sound via Wi-Fi through some standards that is ratified throughout the whole industry, so that there can be a wireless connection between the TV as well as the soundbar or any other speakers. So I think enough of me gushing about this soundbar, and the only reason why I'm gushing about the soundbar in the first place is because of the pricing. If they try to sell this to me at $1,500, $2,000, I probably won't bite, but because I paid $340 for it, I'm actually very, very pleased with myself for this purchase. So if you have any questions about this soundbar, I am keeping this soundbar. So let me know in the comment section down below if you have any questions. I would actually recommend this soundbar if you have just $300+ to spend in Singapore and you're trying to improve your TV sound. And meanwhile, if you're interested in my other videos, do check out these videos and I'll see you in one of these videos.